Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Tracy Williams. So excited for you guys to be here. How's everybody feeling? It's a terrific Tuesday for me. Hoping it's a terrific Tuesday for you guys this morning as well. And I'm excited to have a guest here with me today. Her name is Laurie Herbers.
Hi.
And we're excited to share with you her new book that is out called Second Chance. Hope I didn't mess that up. And it's all about forgiveness and how she found her purpose when she learned to not hate, but turn that hate into love. And so everybody likes that love, right? The little heart. Everybody likes to love. Everybody wants to be loved, and we all deserve love. So thank you for joining me. As you pop in, just put your name or say hello to us so we know you're here. Put where you're from, especially if you're not in Kansas City, and we would appreciate that very much. So I'm trying to show off my little book in the background called The Tree of Life, you guys. It's still on pre-order, and I will let you know for sure when it is ready to come out. But thank you so much for being here with me, Laurie. It's exciting to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me. And I love your book cover.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, listen, I got to ask a question before we get started. Have any of you guys ever heard of Anchor? So if you're ever thinking about starting a podcast, anchor.fm is the way to go. It's the easiest, quickest way to put it out there. It's the cheapest way to put it out there. It's totally free. You can download it on your phone. You just go to anchor.fm. And the best part is they will even distribute it for you to several different places. So whether you have an iPhone or you listen on something that is a old time Android, don't beat me up, people. Just because I love iPhones, I love Apple. Well, they can listen from anywhere and anytime. So we're going to go ahead and get started this morning with this special book. Do you have your book with you?
No, this is crazy. Other people have have friends and stuff that have taken pictures and sent it, and they're like, "I have it." I'm like, "I haven't even gotten a copy yet. I ordered weeks ago," and I'm like, people are like, "Where's? Let me see it." And I'm like, "I don't have it." It's so sad.
That's okay. That would have been a pretty picture to capture.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit. How did you get started? What made you write this book, especially with this topic?
It was not my idea. It was God's idea. He'd been telling me for years I was going to write a book called Second Chances, and this was before I even accepted that I was going to write anything. And I was like, okay. And I actually wrote a book called Second Chances in like 2014, and it was mostly kind of just to see if I could do it, and figure it out. And I'm like, see, I wrote it. And God's like, no, that's not it. Because this book, I dove deep. Like, it is full on vulnerability. I'm so open about all these things that happened to me because it can help other people understand that no matter where you come from or your background, or if you have trauma or anything like that, you can be set free. You don't have to stay entangled in the mess. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was tangled deep.
A lot of us, that happens to a lot of us at different points in our life, right? Yeah. But I like how you mentioned that vulnerability, and that's something that we really need if we really want to be set free and, be able to just move forward in life, is to let go of the past. And sometimes it's hard to let go, but it's possible. I always say the word hard is relative. It's relative to what you think and how you feel. You can always have mind over what really matters. So, like, your priorities, what are your priorities? You got to determine, like, what really matters to you, right?
Right. And our brain is such a powerful thing. There was actually a study done that the same things in your brain light up if you just visualize yourself doing something as if you're actually doing something. So there's so much power in there. We have the ability to do a lot of things we don't really understand until we actually do it. And I have really found too that if you're one of those people that just keep stuffing everything down because you're like, okay, I'm good. No, one of these days it's just gonna be a volcano. And that's kind of how it was with me. It was just this eruption of just so much anger that I had shoved down. And what's so hard to understand is you have to actually walk through the pain if you actually want to get rid of it. You can't go over it, around it, shove it down. it'll just sit there and it'll just stagnate until you actually deal with it. So
that's the hard part. So we just want to take a leap and jump over and, forget all the muddy stuff and all the ugly stuff, all the painful things, and get to just feeling better and doing better and all that great stuff and having good relationships. But it does affect every area of our life. So I appreciate you being vulnerable with us. So you mentioned the pain and the angers. Tell us about one of your first memories of really having that pent up anger and how that affected you.
Oh man. I don't know, because when I was really little, I was very shy and quiet. So I was more of that, when you have that trauma response, that heightened, either you fight
or freeze.
Fight, freeze, faint, or flee. I would flee. Like, I would run. I can remember times when my mom would start yelling at me and she'd see me start moving and she's like, "Don't you be out there." And I'd be out the door. Like, I ran. I didn't want to deal with any of it. So it wasn't until probably like 17, because by then I was the last kid in the house. And so it was just my dad I had no buffer. It was on all of the time. And so he was very mean. And so I started fighting back. Then it came to fight. So if anyone, even just a little this trigger, somebody could just say something random and I'd be like, ah. It was just so built up in me. I was just so angry all of the time. And usually would just come out in really weird moments, like, because you're not expecting it. Because like I said, when it's like this volcano that could erupt at any second, and you just never knew what exactly was going to trigger you. Sure. So yeah, so by the time I got 18, man, I was just ticked off at the world and everybody.
Yeah. So. Well, I can understand that. Now, you mentioned your dad was pretty mean. So was he emotionally abusive? Was he an alcoholic? Or tell us about that.
Yeah, he was very emotionally abusive towards me, not so much towards everyone. He'd had his moments, but it was really aimed in at me because I was not supposed to happen. He had his boy. They were done. Surprise. We're only 14 months apart, so it was a real quick surprise. And he didn't talk to my mom for 6 months. It was her fault. And then it was my fault. Once I came, my presence would just anger him, I guess. So he's always telling me I was stupid and worthless and I would never amount to anything and I couldn't do anything right. I would get blamed for so much stuff. He would come up to me and be like, "Who was all at that party the cops showed up?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I wasn't there." He's like, "Yo, don't lie to me. You were there." I'm just like, I wasn't even there. So yeah, I would just get blamed for the craziest stuff. And yeah, and that's a lot of weight on a kid because he started it when I was young. Yeah. So, and then I wanted to be perfect because then I thought, when I was younger, I'm like, well, maybe if I could just be this perfect kid. So I was like the rule follower, and I, dotted my I's, crossed my T's. Like I was so straight and narrow. If there was a rule, I was following it because I'm like, maybe if I can just be perfect, he'll love me. And straight A's didn't even do it. So finally, I was like, whatever. In high school, I'm lucky I graduated, honestly, because I just didn't care. I didn't do homework. I wouldn't raise my hand. I didn't talk. Like I was like, what's the point? Because I'm a failure no matter what I do. And so, yeah, that's a heavy weight to put on someone.
Yeah, it is. That is very traumatizing especially when you have somebody who are supposed to protect you and love you or show you what that looks like and feels like. They're the ones that are putting you through these traumatic situations. So, yeah, I get it totally. So we see how that could affect your relationship with yourself first, because you took those words and you internalized them, and all that built up stuff. So tell me this, how did you get to the point, or how long did it take you to get to from point A to point B, where you were just like, okay, so you're not believing the lies anymore? And then what's under that anger, because there's always anger is like the secondary layer, like our skin, like we have the layer that you can't see.
Yes. Yeah. And it was a lot about, because I wanted someone to love me, and I just truly felt that I was unlovable, like that no one could possibly, because if my own father, who is meant to love me, couldn't love me, like who could? Like I carried that so long. There was so much pain in that, just that feeling of, being so unimportant and unworthy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and like I said, like I went through layers. Because then back in like 2009, yeah, like 2009 is when I really he passed away and I ended up getting divorced all at the same time. It was a big mess. And so like I can remember I just was yelling at God. Like I blamed him. I thought it was his fault that this is my life and that I had nothing to do with it, which is you think back now and I'm like, that's kind of silly. He wasn't the one who said, go right and go left and say that and do that, and so I had to come to the understanding that, what, my belief is what is causing this. Like what we believe is what comes to us. And so because I believed I was unworthy and unlovable, I brought people into my world to help me believe that I was unworthy and unlovable. That's what we do. We are manifesting all the time, whether you believe in that or not. It's either you're manifesting stuff you want or you don't. And so I just kept manifesting what I truly believed about myself. And it wasn't until I understood that I had the power to change my perspective and my thinking did I start to make any progress, because I journaled with God for like years and I would feel like I thought I was doing really good, but that underlying all the beliefs was still in there. It wasn't until I started pulling them out and going, oh, am I really unlovable? And go, well, when is that not true? And I'm like, well, my mom loves me. So it was so weird because I was always focused on my dad hating me. But meanwhile, my mom like loved me. She kept me. She wanted me. So it's kind of also what are we viewing on? What are we feeding? Because I just kept feeding that belief that I wasn't worth anything. And so then, of course, that's what I got. So
that was awesome that you had a mom, though, that really showed you that love. So all it's not lost, So I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, that's awesome. And thank you again for being so vulnerable. If you're just joining us again, this is this is Laurie Herman, and she's sharing with us about her book that's come out. It's brand new, The Power of the show is called The Power of Second Chances, but it's called Second Chances, right? And so it's out there on Amazon, you guys. I will put a link in the comment section. So if you want to check that out, you definitely can do that. And as you're jumping on, please say hi or something so we know that you're here. If you have any questions, please jump in with your questions. But we're going to get back to it. And Sarah, this is my next question because I noticed that you said you had a divorce. So, of course, that affects your relationships, when we don't, when we're not healed, when we're walking in that flight, fright, or freeze stage because we've been traumatized. And everybody deserves to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved. It's like on the hierarchy of needs, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Psychology 101.
These are teaching. Yeah, when you go through teaching, that's one-on-one too, because the kids in your room, if their basic needs aren't met, you're not teaching them anything.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and love is one of the main. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I just want to put it out there that a lot of times, either underneath that feeling of anger. So if you guys have those bouts of anger, and you really are those little fits, and you don't know where they're coming from. Sometimes you got to look beneath the surface and see it and ask yourself those introspective questions. So, Sarah, tell us. I don't know why I keep calling you Sarah. I apologize, Laurie.
No, you're fine.
But tell us a little bit about, like how all of that happened at the same time with your dad and with your ex-husband now. How did that stuff make you feel, and how did you walk through that?
Not very well. Well, it was all at this big accumulation of course, I didn't have a good relationship because I didn't love myself. And so he fought and we fought, or we would just ignore each other, period. And so that was already horrible. And my dad died just suddenly, just out of nowhere. He was so healthy. And it's a crazy story. He actually was cutting down a tree and the tree fell and a branch flew up and hit him in the back of the head. And that was it. Wow. So you never know. And the craziest thing at that time was normally when I would call home and if he happened to answer, he would just hand it to my mom. But it was getting to the point where he would actually ask, how are you doing? What's going on? And we were just starting to kind of build a relationship and he passed away. So that was on top of it all. And so, because I was in Kansas and they lived in Wisconsin, which is like 10 hours away. And so when it happened, I didn't get home till like 2 a.m. And at the time, my husband I don't even know where the heck he was, but I had left a message. I tried calling him. I had already packed, got my daughter, because he wasn't my daughter's dad. She was actually at her dad's. He had to bring her, and I had already got us packed in the car, and we're 2 hours down the road before he ever even called me to even acknowledge that my dad just passed away. So, so I was home for the week to do, to have the funeral and whatever, and he was busy moving. He was like, oh, she's not here. I can take everything and just go. So yeah, that was fun. So, but and I was also in school going to, to get my teaching degree. And so I kind of just shoved it all in to deal with it because I was right in the middle of the semester, and my mom was like, "Why are you here?" And I'm like, oh, I'm here because of you. And she's like, "But you're in school." I'm like, "It's fine." And so I really didn't get to deal with it because it was in January until summer. And so I just kind of shoved it all in and got through that semester. And then summer, I was like in turmoil because I was going home, and I knew when I got home, I was going to have to deal with his death. And it was like such a heavy weight. So, and that's in my book. There's a huge chunk about that. And actually, when I was writing it, my daughter came out, was like, because I was crying, I was like sobbing just writing that part. And she came out of her room, was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just writing my story. It's fine." And she's like, "Okay." And I just wonder what, because she knows like there was so much pain in that. And
but I love that you were writing and journaling, because there's so much healing that comes from that. Yeah. A lot of my clients say they don't like to cry because, it makes them feel like they're a baby or they're this or that. But you know what? It is one of the best things that you can do for your own self-care and self-love, is to release those feelings, let them go, because it does release some endorphins in your brain that make you feel good. But haven't you ever noticed that you get a good cry out after it's over? You like, wipe your snot up and all that, and just like weight comes off your shoulders.
It does. It's very cleansing. And here I am with study. I read a lot, but there's actually a study on tears. The difference. There's actually something different in tears when you're actually crying out pain and turmoil. It was crazy. I don't remember where I saw that, but it was really interesting that they actually studied that what came out in the tears was different than like happy tears. I don't know. Awesome. But anyway, I got sidetracked. But yeah, no, and I was one of those. And it's funny that you say that, because I always hated crying because my face is puffy and then I'm all snotty and then I just like, ugh. But it's so cleansing. It really does. It really helps you kind of, because when you're so stressed out, it's like you're so up here, and then crying kind of pulls you here. And that's what helps kind of cleanse you.
Right. So. Yeah. Yeah. So through all of that, in that healing that was taking place, is that what the Second Chance book is about?
Is that it really is. It's my journey. It's basically from my birth to not being wanted, and through different moments throughout my life, like when I got pregnant, when I was married, got divorced, my dad passed away. Like it just kept accumulating because my focus was always on that I'm not worthy piece. And so it's our perspective can change. We don't understand sometimes that when someone says something to you and then it gets caught in your head and then you keep thinking it and then you keep feeding it and then pretty soon you're believing it. And once you believe it, that's your foundation. That's everything you're bringing. And so for so long, my foundation was I'm unworthy and I'm a failure, really. And so, which is crazy because I didn't fail very often, but I still believe it didn't matter. Like I got my associate's degree and then I got a bachelor's degree and I'm just like, whatever. That's how I felt about my birthday. It'd be my birthday. I'm like, I don't want to do anything. I don't even tell people it was my birthday, because that's how insignificant I thought that I was.
Yeah.
So yeah, you gotta get in there, because sometimes there's beliefs in there that aren't even ours. That's what's crazy. Someone might just say something to you, and for some reason you heard it, and you kind of, and then somehow it's still in there, and you're carrying it around. Because that was one of mine for a long time, and I think that's why it took me so long to really write. Somewhere along the line, somebody told me that God was the only one who created, that had any power to create anything. We didn't have any power at all, and so I didn't think I had power to do anything. And then, with all my journaling, God's like, you have power because you're mine. I go through you. If you're meant to write a book, it's already in you. I put everything already. And then I started going, wait a minute. Who the heck told me that I couldn't do these things? Because if you think about it, people that, figured out electricity and technology and all these people, it came through them to create it. And so then, I didn't even realize I was carrying that belief, or who even said it to me, but it was stuck in there.
Our beliefs are really powerful. So in that, was this part of you finding what your purpose was?
Oh, yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Because why we're here, because I wasn't even believing in myself at all. Like I wasn't being authentic. I was just figured I was nothing. And so it wasn't until I really started digging into those beliefs and getting to know myself and fully accepting everything that I've ever done, because I've made a lot of stupid mistakes, and that's just part of life. Mistakes is how we learn, and that's how we grow. So I lost my train of thought. But it wasn't until I started to understand that I had the power. I have the power to change me. Nobody else can get up in here. They don't hear what I'm thinking. I had to pay attention to what I'm thinking. And I forgot what you asked me. I'm sorry. I just kind of went.
That's okay. I was just asking you about, once you start writing and that healing starts coming, is that kind of how the place where you find like what your purpose is, like why you're here, why these things happen to you? Because I think a lot of us get stuck in, I'm not worthy, I'm rejected, nobody wants me, I'm not this, I'm not that. But then inside of that, once you start really just sit it all down, and weigh out like what are your beliefs and not what other people put on you, not what you hear and not what you see, then you find something in that.
Right. Yes. So, So even through, because I've done some different coaching certifications and like my whole thing was I wanted to be in my heart space. I wanted love like more than anything. So I was like, I'm just going to find it. I'm very stubborn and that's what kind of kicks me through life. And so I literally would spend every single day, like every morning, I would set intentions for the day. I would do a visualization before I even left the house, filling up with love until it was a bubble around me. So, and even like, I even could picture walking down the halls at schools and like glitter, like wherever I walked, I would leave glitter, which was love everywhere. Cause there's so much love in the world. It wasn't until I understand the enormity of love that's in all life, because all life comes from love. We can tap into it anytime we want. There's so much love. And so it wasn't until I really started tapping into that and really listening to my soul expression, that I was like, I went through all of this. That book is why I'm here. I went through all of that for all of you, for everyone out there, for everyone that's suffering, that feels trapped, stuck, stuck in hate or directionless, lost, like any of those things. That's why I'm here. That's why I started coaching other people, is because when I thought about, if I told myself that I could not help people break free, like it feels like my soul shatters. Like that's how I knew it was my purpose. Because if you're stuck trying to figure out what your purpose is, then ask yourself how would you feel if you couldn't ever do it? Because for me, that just felt like the worst thing ever. So when you're really meant to do something and the thought of it not being able to do it, yeah. So if you look at something and you think, oh, if I can't do that, and you're like, yeah, that doesn't really bother me, that's not your purpose. So that is one way. I've had some people say they're stuck, and then when I tell them that, they're like, oh, yeah. But yeah, that is how I figured it out. Yeah.
I like that. That's a very simple thing that people can actually just, grab a hold to is, tap into your intentions and really stay in that place. Surround yourself with love. One of the good habits I have in the morning is when I wake up, I read I grab my phone and I read what's the scripture for the day, because my uncle always sends me a scripture in the morning. And sometimes I try to beat him and send him a scripture before he sends me one. But that rarely ever happens. So I think that helps set the tone of your day. So when you decide, okay, this is how it's going to be. This is what I'm going to believe for me, and this is what I'm worthy of, and this is what I deserve. Those type of things. Then that really helps other people know how to treat you, and it teaches you who to look for to have relationships with, whether they're work relationships or romantic relationships, or no matter like whatever it is. Then that's a good way to put that out there like that. Right. So yeah, that's awesome. So what other tips do you have for people that may feel like, what, I just want to start all over again. If I could just do it all over, but it's hard for me to start. So what would you tell them?
Self-care, because like for me, I didn't do self-care. I was always last. And that's the craziest thing. We have to be first. If you look at relationships, what's a relationship you're in, you can't ever leave. Yours. So if you're not taking care of you, nobody else is. And I was also brought up to believe that, self-care was selfish. So then I'm being selfish. But then on the flip side, yeah, and then it wasn't until I actually started doing it and paying attention to what the heck, because now my daughter, because if I don't honor me, then everyone around me doesn't. Because they're like, well, she doesn't even care to take a moment. She doesn't need a moment. So we set the precedent of what others give us. So my biggest thing is, in order to honor other people the way they deserve to be honored, you must first honor you. And that means self-care. self-care, because you're teaching your children not to do self-care when you don't, because they do what we do, not what we say. And now I'm telling her, okay, self-care. So yeah, super important. And if you don't even know what you like, that's another big clue. You haven't been taking care of yourself. Because if you're like, I don't even know what to do, well, then start making a list. Start making a list of things you like to do. And it could be quick things. It can just be an uplifting song. That'll get me real quick. I just pick up songs like, what is that one I really, really like? You Make Me Brave. Oh my gosh. I don't remember who sings it, but I love that song. If you want a quick, it doesn't have to be anything, sometimes people think self-care is going to take an hour. I got to take like a spa day. No, it could just be, if you like to read for 5 minutes, or it's your song, paint, write, read, whatever it is you like. It can be simple breathing exercises.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love that answer, because that is the main heart of it, is do the things that make you feel good and things that are going to enhance you and make you grow. I mean, if you're a reader, then read. If you're not a reader, start reading, because leaders are readers. And you get to grow, and you get to learn how to love on you, because if you don't know how to love on you, you definitely won't know how to love on yourself. I remember when I was young, I was younger, and I used to tell the young girls, if you really want a husband, then you got to pray that he knows how to treat a young lady. Watch how he treats his mom. If he treats her good, then you might be okay. But if you don't treat her good, like you can totally hang it all up.
Right.
So yeah, that's a big thing. Self-care. I appreciate you saying that. Self-care is important.
Yeah, and also, if you think about it, because I always call it a love bucket. So we all have this love bucket, and if we're not filling it, so for years I was basically just dragging this empty bucket around, thinking that I'm going to give anybody anything. I'm not. I was just exhausted all of the time. And so then also imagine that if you do meet your person that you're meant to be with, and your bucket's empty, why should they have to be the one to fill it all? That is a mean thing to do to somebody. Because that was what I was doing for years. I was expecting I was just going to meet this person and he was just going to fill that bucket. That's a really heavy weight to put on someone else. But now imagine if you both come with full overflowing love buckets, how amazing that relationship will be.
Right. So the other way around is called selfish. When you want them to do everything, and you don't want to listen to the other person, but you have to give on both sides. That's totally true. But something that you said that I think a lot of us are guilty of is, you were going to school when all this stuff happened, and so you just kind of had to keep going and push everything down on the inside until like one part of your world stopped, right? Not everybody else's world, but it's amazing how when those things happen, we have a habit of still doing really great. So we're excelling in this area, whether it's educationally, or whether it's at work professionally, or having our own business. But then on the inside, when you get home at night, it's you alone, and you got to deal with you. So it's really best to, I always say, like when you have secret feelings or any kind of secrets, they're kind of like worms on the inside of you. So just imagine worms on the inside, just like tearing you, and they're just like crawling around, tearing you up. So when people have those inner fits, like, she's just mad for nothing, she just get mad all the time. Like, no, something's going on. You just don't know what it is. And that may not understand or realize what it is. Or if they do, they may not be at the point where they're ready to admit what it is yet. Yep. But as a friend, if you notice somebody like that, you can always simply say, is there anything you want to talk about? Or if there is anything you want to talk about, just let me know. I'm always here for you. Because, when they're going through those stages, you don't really want to be around them too much. Because you never know. It can be explosive at any time. Right? Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Just let them know you're there.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so before we jump off of here, because I said it would be a short lunchtime thing, I want you just tell them anything you want to about your book and the best way to get in touch with you. I love how you do like the 30-minute discovery calls with people. So tell us a little bit about that and what to expect for that.
Okay, so yeah, you can find me on calendly.com/SoulLoveLegacy and sign up for a call. It's just our way of you get to kind of know me, I get to know you, what you're struggling with, because when you work with someone, you have to feel safe. It has to be someone, because otherwise you will not open up and get those worms out, basically. So yeah, it's just to make, and I got to make sure you're helpful, because also if you're not willing to actually do the work and get through the things, then no one can help you. And so it's just kind of a joint. You get to know me. I get to see what you're struggling with. I can show you how I can help you if you want to work with me. So that's basically what that's for.
Awesome.
Otherwise,
I appreciate that.
And you can also reach me on souloveLegacy.com or Soul Love Legacy on Facebook. I have a page.
Yeah. And I love the name of your book. That's really catchy, and it's something that's needed, because we all need second chances. Sometimes many more than a second chance. So that's awesome. So thank you again for joining me. I appreciate you being here today. It was so good meeting you and talking to you. And I
Thank you.
wish you the best of success. If you guys are watching this on the replay, please put in the comment section #replay. I appreciate that. If you're looking on YouTube, make sure you give me the thumbs up if you like this information, and hit that subscribe button, that big red subscribe. All right. Thank you. Peace out, you guys. Have a great day. Remember, it is a terrific Tuesday, so make it terrific. It's your choice.